Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome to another episode of Responses to Critics, Abu Usamah Part 3 on QNet TV, Quranists Network Television. Let's proceed. So let's begin with minute 19.50, where Abu Usamah says, we cannot take only the Quran, nor can we take only the Sunnah. Which is actually correct. You can't take only the Sunnah. The Sunnah should be verified by the Quran at least. Unfortunately, Abu Usamah does not actually mean that. He means that you cannot take the Quran by itself, nor can you take the Sunnah by itself. In reality, the product of this combination, Quran and Sunnah, which is Sharia law, does not reflect Quranic norms. That's right. I mean, the Quran is meant to be the primary source of Sharia law, yet it is completely silenced in the formulation of Sharia law. The best example of this is the apostasy law, in which Allah gives complete freedom to believe or disbelieve in His Deen. Yet, in the normative Sunnah, the Hadith tells us to actually persecute and kill apostates, people who leave Islam. What does the Quran say about this? Well, let's have a look at chapter 10, verse 99. Allah says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَأَمَنَا مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا. And if your Lord were to will it, all in the heavens will believe. أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسِ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنًا. Will you force mankind until they become believers? So Rasulullah himself was actually warned from forcing anyone, not just people who enter Islam, who haven't entered Islam, not just people who are in Islam and want to leave. No, anyone, an-nas, mankind. You never stop being part of mankind. So, أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسِ, will you force mankind حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ? So, here you can see that Rasulullah cannot force anyone to believe. So, Abu Usamah there, he should note that in reality, the Sunnah does in fact function by itself. The Quran is completely silenced. Now we move on to minute 20.15, where Abu Usamah quotes the same hadith as Shaykh Faiz, which reads, أَلَا إِنِّي أُتِيتُمْ قُرْآنَ وَمِثْلُهُ مَعَهُ. Verily, I have been given the Quran and something like it. So right away, we need to ask the question, why didn't Rasulullah use the word sunnati here? My sunnah. Why didn't he say, Ala inni utitum Quran wa sunnati, and my sunnah? Because that's the motto traditional Muslims use. Quran wa sunnah, Quran and sunnah. Why didn't he say hadithi, my hadith? He didn't say that either. Rather, he said, وَمِثْلُهُ مَعَهُ, and something similar to it. And as we've explained in responses to critics, Shaykh Faiz, that this flies in the face of chapter 17, verse 88, which reads, Kul. So this came from Rasulullah's mouth. Let's never forget that. لَإِنِي أَجْتَمَعَاتِ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ. Verily, if the ins and jinn were to gather together, أَلَا أَنْ يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ, upon producing the like of this Quran, لَا يَأْتُنَا بِمِثْلِهِ, they cannot produce the like thereof, وَلَوْ كَانَ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ ظَهِيرًا, even if they backed each other, they can't produce it. So why is it at this point Rasulullah did not say إِلَّا مِثْلُهُ مَعَهُ, except what has been given to me which is similar to it? He failed to say that. Instead, any reader of the Quran, if he reads the Quran in context, he would continue to chapter 17, verse 89, which says, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا لِلنَّاسِ فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. Verily, we have repeated for mankind in this Quran, min kulli mathalin, from every example. Mathalin wa mithluhu, same word. فَأَبَى أَكْثَارُ النَّاسِ إِلَّا كُفُورًا, and most of mankind refuse except with concealment. So there you go. The Quran is the only focus of this verse. There is absolutely nothing like the Quran according to the Quran. The Hadith, however, has a different version of things. Right, this takes us now to minute 22.20, where Abu Usamah quotes a verse, and he quotes the verse but not its number, which is a little bit difficult, because he says, know by your Lord, Ya Muhammad. There is no Ya Muhammad in the verse, so we need to be very clear on that. That may not affect the point we're making at this moment, but we need to be absolutely clear that we are quoting the Quran correctly. The verse is chapter 4, verse 65. There is no Ya Muhammad there. Allow me to quote the verse in full. فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ, so no, by your Lord, لَا يُؤْمِنَا حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُكَ, they do not believe until they make you a judge. فِيمَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ, in what they dispute between them. ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا, and then they do not find in their souls any difficulty. مِمَّا قَضَيْتَ, from what you have decided. وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا, and they submit with another submission. So here Abu Usamah is inferring that the Prophet is a judge between believers, and by accepting the Prophet's judgment, that is proof of your iman. So he says, okay, those who reject the Sunnah, they can't be believers because they reject the judgment of the Prophet. How does the Sunnah and the judgment of the Prophet relate to each other in this argument? Did the Prophet not judge with the Quran? Here again, we have to see that plucking out one verse and making an entire theory of what Islam is from one verse is highly dangerous. It does not give us the insight we need about the book. Abu Usamah need not even go outside the surah. He just needs to keep reading the surah onto verse 105. So chapter 4, verse 105, which says, Inna anzalna ilayka, verily we have descended to you, al-kitaba bil-haq, the book in truth, the book in truth, the book in truth. لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ, that you may judge between the people. بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ, based on what Allah has shown you. وَلَا تَكُونْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا, and do not for the traitors be a pleader or an advocate. This is indeed another scary verse. It's basically saying that Allah has descended to you. So here we take it to mean the Prophet, the book in truth. So the Prophet can judge between men. Take us back to chapter 4, verse 65, where it talks about making the Prophet a judge. So here the book is given so that he judges based on what Allah has shown him. So indeed, even then his experience is limited based on what Allah has shown him. So if Allah did not show him, he can't be an objective judge. وَلَا تَكُونْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا, and this bit is perhaps the scary bit. And do not, and you are not for the traitors an advocate. Who are the traitors here? The traitors are those who refuse the judgment of the book. So here only the book is mentioned. Abu Usamah talks about the Sunnah, but Allah only talks about Al-Kitab bil-Haq. And the word, the traitors, shows that if you do not take Al-Kitab bil-Haq, you have betrayed the Prophet. Unfortunately, this is very strong wording. I'm not implying that anyone has betrayed the Prophet, because what's in his heart we can never know. Yeah, Abu Usamah seems like a very sincere believer, so I can't really say anything about that. But I would be very afraid to take anything else as God's judgment or the Prophet's judgment, simply because Allah only says Al-Kitab bil-Haq, chapter 4 verse 105, Al-Kitab bil-Haq. Right, so that brings us to the end of part 3. We expected to finish this particular episode of Responses to Critics in 3 parts, but unfortunately there's still some more to be said, so we will proceed on to part 4. Please stay tuned. Bye.